Hello, Omar. How are you?
Fine, thank you. How are you?
Good. Yes, thank you. The topic today we'll be doing this Azure Container Registry.
All right.
If you remember that in our last exercise, we deployed a container on our container registry.
Yeah.
So if I show you, just to reiterate again, if I go to my container instance, so we published our image to container registry and then we deployed to test it on our Azure container instance. Agreed?
Agree. Yeah.
So if you go to container instance, at the moment there's nothing because I deleted that for this exercise. So and but hopefully I've got registry still there. And if you go to repositories, and so refresh it. Supposed to be a registry here, but anyway, let's push it again just for testing purpose. So if I go to my Linux machine where the Docker file installed, if I go to just pushing that again just to see. So you can see that this is our custom image, the one that we can containerized. So instead of in this exercise, what we are doing now here is instead of deploying in Azure Container Instance, we're going to be using an Azure pipeline. Yeah.
Okay.
So in previous lectures, what we have done, we deployed our application on Azure Web App, Azure Virtual Machines, and then we did on our Azure container instances. We containerized as a container, and we also did Azure pipelines for that. So for this container now, we do, instead of like pushing from local folder from Visual Studio and then pushing it from a virtual machine, installing Docker, that was all manual method. Now we'll be doing a using Azure pipelines.
Okay.
So at the moment we can see if you go to our Visual Studio, this is our project. So if we just to test it, our app is working locally.
All right.
Remember we had in our project we inserted the now you can see the table is working because we've got SQL database and SQL Server in the background. I meant that to access locally, we had if you stop this, if you go to product, you see that we added destination string.
Yes.
Remember, and that's where you can access locally. Okay, so now we gonna be automate all this process using Azure Virtual Pipeline. So the steps I included. So we saw that our app is working locally. Delete the Azure containers instance, which I deleted there. Now I do not have any because we're not using our container instance at the moment because we'll be deploying using Azure DevOps and to see the containers working or not.
All right.
So if I see the instance Azure, okay, if you see the instance, so at the moment nothing is there, yeah. And so the next step, if you go again to so go to registry and delete the sqlapp repository. Yes, we don't need any sqlapp registry. So
Okay.
we don't need to have it. I was just showing you again how can you push it. So if you go there and delete
Mm-hmm.
the repository, delete repository. Next step is now we'll use Azure Pipeline to publish an image as a repo on this Azure Container Registry. So we will use, so what we'll do in the project, the one we have, we will push this project to our as a new repo.
Okay.
But before we do that, we need to add this Docker file in this project. To do this, I'll show you again. I've already added, but to show again, if we go to open as a file explorer. So
Yep.
this is our file explorer, and if I show that, so this is where I added this Docker file, the one we created from the last lesson. So you can copy and paste here
Okay.
in there. And also what I've done in the bin, I've just this is we to clean up we can delete. So this is where the .NET installed, so we don't need this. So if you go to bin again and delete this, because we are not doing locally now, we are deploying via Azure Pipeline. So to do that, now I've already added Docker file. So let's create another repo in our project.
Okay.
So we go to Git and we go to Git here, local repositories, and manage report. So we delete that again, remove this. Yeah, okay. Now what do? We git push to Git service,
Okay.
and we use Azure DevOps, and use our organization is Cloud Soldier, and the project is this one, and this is already existed, so we call it sqlapp docker file 1, because I already created earlier, so I'm just calling it 1. Yeah,
Okay.
push it. So it's pushing it now. So if we go back to our project, if I go back to Azure DevOps, this is our project.
Mm-hmm.
We go to repos and SQL Docker, and this is the one just pushed. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we can see that we have got a Docker file over here. Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the moment, so let's just see how it works. Let's set up a build. So we need to do a build first before we release anything.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as we click and set a build, so it automatically gives us the options of Docker and all that in Docker file, because we have got a Docker file in our project. So it is automatically detected, so that we are using a Docker file. Yeah. So
Sorry, I'll be back in a moment.
yes.
Okay.
1 second. Let me put the volume up. Get this up. So as soon as we click the button set up a build, it gives us the option of Docker and Docker, all these options. So we'll choose this one.
Right.
So it is loading subscription. Right, so it picked up my subscriptions like that. Continue, and it will automatically pick up the registry. Sometime it does not pick up, so what you have to do is just log out and log back in again. So let me do that.
Okay.
Now you can see that after logging off and log back in, it picked up the registry. This is the container registry we created in Azure portal, remember?
Yeah.
This one. So this is where it's gonna push our let me refresh this. It's nothing there at the moment. So this is after running a build pipeline and release. It will push that image to our local repository. Before we had to do it manually, remember? From here. Now we're
Yep.
using pipeline.
All right.
If we do validate and configure, so it will create a, see it automatically created a YAML pipeline. So trigger is main, that's self-hosted agent. So these are the variables. So this is our Docker service connection. This is our connection on Azure portal. Image repository will be sqlapp Docker file. This is our registry in Azure portal. Stage build. So this is as a task where it's going to build and push image to container registry. Line number
Okay.
32. The thing is that this might work or maybe not, but chances are that it might not work, because what we are doing now, we are just pushing our source code, and
All right.
we just pushing our code, which is from here, all that code. But but in our previous exercise, after the code, remember we ran a command. If you remember that, we ran a command to build Docker apps. Remember,
Yep.
um, to build after we pushed, before we pushed the image, before we had the public folder, the work folder from Visual Studio, we created a work folder. Remember, published that. We published the solution app, and where is that? Yes, published. Remember, we created a we created a new we created this folder profile, and we publish that to local folder, and then we use WinSCP. Remember? Hello?
Sorry, I'm in call with my father.
I was telling you that, remember, we did all that process manually. We created a work folder, and we pushed that work folder to Linux VM machine using WinZip.
Yes.
And then
Windows. Yeah.
from WinZip we 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 uh, we created a container from this image,
Yes.
and this, but now so we created an image after pushing that code. But now what we are doing here, this might not work, because we have not created, there's no task here to create a container. So if I just show you something, like in our next step, so
Mm-hmm.
we will modify. The reason we have to modify it will not work, because build it might push an image or something, but that will be not valid image to our container registry.
Okay.
So the reason is that if I show you, so also I forgot to show you that
Okay.
when we validated it, it created a service connection with this project. So if you go to project settings and service connections,
Yep.
now we can see that this
We have
is
the local registry. Yeah.
this one. Yeah. Okay.
Terms of the variable, we have the service connection.
So in our last exercise, we set up a build, but if I show you that again, we did a build. So it will create a build and push that image to our Azure Container Registry, Azure Registry, but is so what basically what is doing, it is creating an image on the basis of source code, like all these files. So it is creating an image basis on this file, but they are not containerized yet. So we need to modify our YAML file to make sure we have all the jobs and tasks in there. So for that reason, this is an example. What we can do, we can replace this YAML file exactly the same way, but we need add some jobs and stages. So as we can see that the same, we got a variable exactly as before. The image repository will be it will publish to our Azure registry will be sqlapp docker,
Okay.
and this is a container registry, and this will be the tag.
Yeah.
Then we're using Ubuntu latest. Then we
Yep.
got stages. First stage is build. So we got build and push stage. In that build stage we got a job called display name job is build. In the job we got pool image. We're using the image, same one over here, VM image, which is Ubuntu. And the task is install .NET 2 with a version 6. And then we creating a build of the project by using this task. Then we are publishing this folder as a zip folder of 943, and then this task line 50, we're doing build and push, and we added this build context because all the DLLs and the libraries in our project are part of this sqlapp folder. So if I click this, right click, select all, and just replace with this. Oops, not this one. So this is just we just copied, replaced our existing pipeline, so we can see that all the tasks in there. And so now if I go and run this,
Okay.
and yeah, save and run. So what we need to do, we need to modify this YAML file.
Okay.
So we just compare it.
Okay.
So we have modified now, just say save and run. So we have added this build context and a tag in there.
Okay.
Save and run. Let's see. Yeah, it looks better. So when this completed, we come back. Now we can see this, we have a stage, build and push stage. It's building, installing .NET, doing the build task, then doing the .NET CLI, then we'll build and push.
All right. Now it seems to be working perfectly.
Yeah. So it's preparing. So it's gonna be this. So this will be the image. Yep, finishing build. So to see that, we go to our registry, and if we do registry refresh, okay, see?
Yeah.
So we have published, and just a quick test. How do we test this image as a container? So we can create a container instance.
Yeah. And we can see if it works via the URL.
Yeah. If we just do a container instance and we call it container name, say SQL app container, and we use Azure Registry.
All right.
So it automatically picked up our registry and the Docker file.
Yes.
Okay, networking. And this is very important. So we are exposing on internet and public.
Okay.
Advanced next tag, and create. Sorry. So what is missing? This is missing. We have to use the tag, latest tag.
Okay.
Which we did. So networking now, public and 80. Next advanced and next tags, and create. And click create. So basically, when the image is published onto our container registry, and we can test it using Azure Container Instances, or we can deploy into our AKS cluster, so where we can see the container. Now to how to test it, if you go to resource and we just copy this public IP address and copy here. It should give us our SQL database table here. Enter. Here we go. See?
It's working.
In a nutshell, we created a .NET project. Yeah.
Yep.
In Visual Studio, we created a repo of this.
Yes.
And we added a Docker file.
Yep.
It's from our last project, and then our aim is that to automate everything. So we created the Azure pipeline after we have the repo. So we created a pipeline, and we edited this pipeline, and we edited all this task, because in our previous when we were talking about that build could have worked, but we were just pushing our source code, not the container files. So for that reason, we had to add this task, build context and Docker, to build and push an image to container registry. And
Okay.
we added the latest, and then after that, we saw in our local registry our image been pushed, and to test it, we created a container. We created an instance, and we copied the public IP address, and we were able to see this list. I hope this is successful. So in our lesson, what we'll do, we will using the same process, and we'll try to deploy in our AKS cluster. Thank you very much.
Thank you.